All right, good afternoon, everyone. I believe we've got a critical mass and can go ahead and get started if you want to kick us off, Clark or Jenna.
Very good. Becca, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Virginia Early Childhood Advisory Committee meeting. Today is Thursday, October 16th, and let's begin with roll call. Becca?
All right, Ms. Suarez.
Here.
Dr. Parrish.
Here, sorry.
That's all right. Mr. Anders.
Here.
Ms. Mormon.
Here.
Ms. Edmondson.
Here.
Dr. Johnson. Not joining us today. Ms. Langford. Not on yet. Mr. Turner.
Here.
Dr. Wolford.
Here.
Ms. Howard.
Here.
Dr. Shreefian.
Here.
Dr. Steen. Dr. Nelson couldn't be with us today. Mr. Quinn.
Here.
Ms. Irizarry. Ms. Lipscomb.
Here.
Dr. McCartney. Dr. Patrick.
Here.
Mr. Vanderhall.
Here.
Ms. Gehrig.
Here.
Ms. Lehman.
Here.
And Ms. Takash.
Here.
All right, Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Very good, Becca. Thank you again. And again, welcome to all of our returning as well as some new members who we're going to be giving a special welcome to very shortly. First on the agenda today is approval of minutes from our June 26th meeting. Did everyone have an opportunity to review those? And would someone like to make a motion to adopt these minutes?
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
And please state your name.
Gina Wolford.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Susan Patrick seconds.
Very good. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Adoption of June 26 minutes, so moved. Becca, do we have any public comment for review?
We do not today.
Okay, very good. With that, I believe I will be turning it over to Miss Jenna Conway.
Excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our virtual ECAC. One of the important items is to welcome our new and reappointed members, and I will ask Becca to walk us through that.
Absolutely. So we are thrilled to have 4 new members joining the Early Childhood Advisory Committee beginning technically effective July 1st, but of course this is their first time meeting with us as a group. First, we have Lisa Gehrig, who is an education specialist in early childhood with the Training and Technical Assistance Center at ODU. Lisa is representing advocacy or service organizations for children with disabilities. Lisa, do you want to come off mute and say hello?
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here.
Awesome. And then we have Jessica Lehman, who is the Vice President of Early Childhood Education with STEPS Incorporated, and she is representing Head Start programs that are not school-based. Jessica, would you like to come up and say hello?
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here.
And then we have January Takash, who is a senior manager over pre-K and early Head Start programs with Fairfax County Public Schools. And she is representing Head Start programs that are school-based. January?
Hello, everybody.
Awesome. And then last but not least, we have Duran Vanderhall, who is the Child Care Capacity Coordinator with Minus 9 to 5, which is Ready Region Southeastern. And he is representing nonprofit early childhood care and education advocacy organizations. Duran?
Hello, glad to be here.
Awesome. And we are thrilled to have you all joining this very prestigious group. I think the four of you are great representatives of the breadth and range of early childhood providers and stakeholders across the Commonwealth. And we're just so excited to continue the legacy that this group has set forward. And we also have a few returning members that were reappointed. So we are pleased to have Jennifer Parrish, Clark Anders, Daryl Turner, and Kia Foster Steen continuing to serve in their current roles. Again, these were folks that were actually part of our inaugural committee, and we're just really happy to have you all continuing on with us. So welcome to our new members, and thank you to our folks that are continuing to serve. Back to you, Jenna.
Wonderful. Thank you. And welcome to our new members. And it's great to see your faces on the screen this afternoon. It was also really exciting for those of you who could make it out to come out to the event earlier this week to see folks in real life. The next item on the agenda, if we can move ahead a slide, is to elect our chair and vice chair. And as a reminder, as part of our bylaws, we've established these roles within the broader advisory body, making sure that there's someone who can run the meeting, who is a member of the advisory committee, not department staff or leaders, and then a vice chair who fills in their absence, as Clark has ably done with Shaiki's recent promotion and departure from the Early Childhood Advisory Committee. We often also work with these folks to make sure that they're available on the dates of these meetings and ultimately kind of help us move through all of the important content, help us get to endorsements, often which may include some discussion of different perspectives and thinking through and being really kind of creative and out of the box on how, if we have different perspectives and different desires, how we can kind of find compromises that allow us to kind of get to an endorsement and continue to move forward. So really important roles for our Early Childhood Advisory Committee. What I'll do next is ask for nominations. We'll start with the chair, and then we'll go to the vice chair. And what we'll do is we'll see if we get any nominations for the position. Hold kind of, as it always is on a virtual meeting, it's a little bit of awkward silence just to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity who might want to nominate somebody else or nominate themselves. Both are allowable. And then we will get a nomination. I'll ask for seconds, and then we will do a vote. Okay. First, for the illustrious position of chair of Virginia's Early Childhood Advisory Committee, do I have any nominations for chair?
This is Gina Wolford. I'd like to nominate Mr. Clark Anders.
I will also note that I will give anybody who's nominated the chance to turn it down if there's any concerns. Clark, do you have any concerns about being nominated for chair?
No, none at all, Jenna. Thank you for that nomination. It's been an honor to serve in that capacity, and if the board chooses, I would be happy to do it again.
Any other nominations for the position of chair of the Early Childhood Advisory Committee?
Jenna, we need a second on Clark before we move on.
Yep.
Michelle Smith Howard, I second Clark.
All right, having held for 2 minutes and having received a second, can we have a vote? Want to have everybody vote in the chat for if you are voting yes or approve, it is for Clark Anders to be our new chair of the Early Childhood Advisory Committee. Members, please place your votes now. Becca, does ex officio vote? No, does not, right?
Jenna, I feel appropriate for myself to abstain from voting. That does not mess up any quorum or anything, does it? Okay.
It doesn't, although Clark, my mother always tells the story of running for student council. It must have been like the fourth or fifth grade, very small numbers, and she did not vote for herself and lost by a vote. So in my family, we encourage you to vote for yourself, but that is fine. You don't need it though, Clark. In the chat, we have a unanimous approval of Clark Anders as our chair. Congratulations, Clark, and thank you for your work so far.
Well,
With that,
thank you for the board. Thank you for your confidence in me, and I will certainly try my best not to let you down.
excellent. With that, we need a vice chair. And again, as noted before, the vice chair, we also need somebody who is can attend all of these meetings, is supportive of the chair as we kind of work through important content rather that affects all of our early childhood care and education policy and practice. Do I have any nominations for the position of vice chair for the Early Childhood Advisory Committee?
Jen, I'd like to nominate Susan Patrick.
Excellent. Thank you, Jen Parrish. Susan, any concerns with being nominated as vice chair for the Early Childhood Advisory Committee meeting?
My gosh, no. What an honor. Thank you, Jennifer.
I second that motion.
Excellent. All right. With that, hearing no other nominations and with a second, I would ask the Early Childhood Advisory Committee to vote in the chat. Approve or yes means voting for Susan Patrick to become our new vice chair of the Early Childhood Advisory Committee. Please place your votes. Excellent. All right, we now have a new chair and vice chair. Congratulations, Clark and Susan. Some others might say, no good deed goes unpunished. So we're excited for your leadership as we work through some of the very important issues over the course of your term. With that, Clark, we will move with your permission into our VDOE updates.
Perfect. Thank you. That would be great. Thanks, Jenna.
All right. Can we move to the next slide, please? So for today's meeting, as you saw in the agenda, you have accomplished all of the really important votes. So the voting items were approval of the minutes and approval of your leadership. That said, we wanted to convene you all to provide you a set of updates. So these are not items that require endorsement, but we thought they represent a set of important policy or practice items related to early childhood that we wanted to make sure that all of our members were aware of. So over the course of the next hour and 40 minutes, it'll be quite a bit of content. Please don't hesitate to either raise your hand or add a question in the chat section, as I want this to be interactive throughout, but we have important updates on the state of the state, on where we are on attendance tracking, and some of the important areas of health and safety as it relates to the Child Day Center regulations and the pre-service training, and some of the stakeholder work for our work with sort of thinking about school age and out of school time. I also have some very important time at the end to talk about what happened this week, which was the rollout of the 24-25 VKP5 quality profiles. And just to share with you the hot off the presses data on what we know about early childhood care and education quality from last year. With that, I want to say thank you to everybody for agreeing to move last week's meeting to this week. Once we found out that the governor was going to announce the rollout of the profiles, we thought it would make most sense to move this meeting to after that. One, so we could share all the information with you, that we didn't have to say, hey, wait until next Tuesday. And two, because we have folks on the Early Childhood Advisory Committee who work for sites or school divisions or organizations that are recognized this year on the honor roll. And it was just too awesome an opportunity to pass up in terms of being able to recognize folks on in our meeting today. So I know it is a big ask to take 2 hours out of your afternoon. I know folks are busy at centers and sites and schools. And so thank you for your willingness to be flexible at the last minute so that we could fully recognize all of the accomplishments today as compared to having it last week, where we would have had to be much more circumspect about what we could say. So with that, that's our agenda. Please don't hesitate to raise your hand. VDOE team, if folks are raising their hand and I'm missing that, please flag for me, or if you want to pop a question in the chat at any time. We'll start with the state of the state, and some of you might be familiar with this, but as the body designated in law that advises the Board of Education, I wanted to make sure that you all had a sense of what was shared with the field this summer. And it really gives you a sense of where we are across the different parts of the Division of Early Childhood Care and Education, and in partnership with our private partners, such as the Early Childhood Foundation and the Ready Regions, what we see in the future. And I always think that's important for the ECAC to understand, and that's probably particularly important when we are facing an election and a new gubernatorial administration. Kind of being clear of what we've accomplished and what's ahead, we think is helpful information as we go into the fall. So this will just be a summary. As a reminder, the full state of the state, all of those slides, and a recording of our presentation is always available online. And it's the funniest thing. It is my favorite presentation to do all year. And oftentimes people will come up to me and be like, hey, do you know what I did this weekend? And they're like, I watched State of the State. And I'm like, if that's what, does it for you, that's great. But it is such a wonderful kind of bringing together of all of the work that the field is doing, that our staff is doing, that our partners are doing. And so it truly is my favorite presentation. As always, we start with kind of our shared vision. And if you've ever seen me present, you've seen this slide. But always our true north is imagining a Virginia where all kids have the opportunity to come to school ready. We know that requires all of us. It truly takes a village, and we want to make sure that families have a variety of high quality public-private options. That's childcare, that's family day homes, that's schools, that's early Head Start, that's Head Start, that's all of those types of programs. There's not one single provider type or program that can serve all kids birth to 5. And so it truly takes all of us. As we'll talk about at the end, we had another accomplishment in a second successful year of measuring all of our programs that take public dollars, supporting them to improve, and then recognizing for that incredible work. And as we're working very closely with your compatriots on the Commission on Early Childhood Care and Education, continuing to understand the very important role that you all play in enabling parents to work, go to job training or school, so that they can pursue greater self-sufficiency, while knowing that their children are healthy, safe, and learning and thriving. Next slide, please. We break this presentation into the 5 areas that are our sub-goals for our public-private system. So we talk about access and choice, quality improvement we'll save for the end so that I can feature the highlights of this week's VQB5 rollout, family engagement, health and safety, and then our regional capacity and innovation. And I just want to reiterate, and I very rarely let the team use all caps, but this is all caps because it's just that important that Virginia providers, including many of the representatives on this committee, educators, and families and the partners that serve them are essential to this strategy. And we couldn't do it alone. It really takes our public and private partners, including the Early Childhood Foundation, Ready Regions, and our improvement partners to ensure implementation. And I always want to make sure that we give credit. I'm the lucky one who gets to make the State of the State presentation each year, but it is truly collective and collaborative effort that led to these accomplishments. And I want to make sure that credit is given where credit is due. In some ways, I have one of the easiest jobs in the system, and the work that you all do every day to make this happen is why it happens. Next slide, please. So I also have highlighted this year in a way that we've not done in years past. We can move one more slide, is the through line. And so if you've heard me talk at all in the last few weeks, you've heard that term through line. And the idea is thinking about how we, as a broader set of early childhood care and education constituents, think about telling the story of what we have done together over the past 2 administrations. And we've done it in a bipartisan way, in a way that is sort of both has consistency statewide as we aim to support every kid to come to kindergarten ready and make sure every family has options, but also has enough customization to meet the individual needs of providers, of families, of communities, and localities. And this is important, regardless of what happens next month, that we are sharing with whoever becomes our next governor and whoever may be in charge of our House of Delegates, kind of the things that we've done together and what that means for going forward, right? And continuing on this very positive bipartisan pathway where we are increasing parent choice and access, we are improving quality, we are measuring outcomes and supporting improvement, and that we're ultimately building lasting regional infrastructure. And that is working together, keeping that core, staying that path will be essential to ensuring that more Virginia kids enter kindergarten ready. In case you don't believe me, we've pulled some numbers, and I won't go through all of these because there's so many numbers on this page, but this is really a stunning slide on how much progress this sector has made over the course of 2 administrations. So you'll note, and we've worked really intentionally with our current governor, who's such a champion for early childhood, to allow us to kind of go back and not just compare 2021 to 2025, but to go all the way back to 2018 and really look at, over the course of 2 administrations in which 2 governors have served as champions in different ways for this work, how much we've accomplished together. And it's our hope that we can also share this information with whoever might be our next governor, right, to think about how they can continue to support this really important work that's happening statewide. So when you look at how many kids are served, we've double the number of children. This is if you look at our slots for 2026, even higher than this, but doubling the number of kids that are served with public dollars. And a lot of this is driven by demand and increase from working families. We went from under $100 million in state general funds, nearly all of which went towards state preschool, to now this year, $400 million last year, and over $462 million going into this year. Just over 2,500 private providers in child care subsidy to over 3,100 providers. Just 1,400 in VQ, and most of those folks were at kind of level 1 to now over 3,400, more than doubling. As my favorite, 165 class observations in VQ. That's about 13,000 minutes of insight to a whopping It's even hard to say. An 18,844% increase, 31,258 class observations. Guys, I get goosebumps even saying that out loud. 2.2 million minutes of insights into what our infants, toddlers, and preschoolers are experiencing. Going from just 30,000 children in VKRP to 132,000 children in VKRP, a 300% increase with both VKRP for kindergarten and for preschool. And with VA Connects, where we had separate data systems that were out of date and hadn't been updated to a modernized, safe, secure, integrated data system that connects birth through 8th grade classrooms, 80,000 users, and just under 600,000 children, and ultimately enables us to not only show the incredible work that's happening in early childhood, but show its indelible impact on our children as they move through our K-12 system, and hopefully to help everyone understand this is way more than babysitting or caretaking, and truly matters for the future of Virginia, for all of these individual children, for them to fulfill their potential, but ultimately for our broader economy and society. So just a few things that you've accomplished over the last 2 administrations. So keep that in mind as we think about, all of the kind of the highlights. You knew if it was me presenting today that there would be data, but it truly reflects extraordinary collaboration, coordination, everybody willing to think a little bit differently, and everybody, willing to work hard to be a little bit better tomorrow than they are today. And we are incredibly appreciative, and we look forward to working with whomever is elected to kind of continue this work going forward. Next slide, please. And yes, Melinda, we will make sure that you get these slides. They're available now on the State of the State, and I'll actually ask the team to put the link in there so you can have these too. All right, access and choice. Let's move to the next slide, please. So in addition to serving more kids than ever before, I want to reiterate that we used every single dollar in state fiscal year 25 to serve kids with the public dollars that were appropriated for early childhood. So in years past, if we've not used all the dollars that were allocated, whether that was for childcare subsidy or for Virginia Preschool Initiative, they were swept back up. They were particularly for those state dollars. This year, we were able to use every single dollar to serve more kids than ever before. Historic highs in childcare subsidy, as well as VPI. And we we were able to take, when we did not use all of the dollars that went to VPI this year. We're able to turn those dollars into childcare subsidy slots. And so kind of being able to use every dollar, not a single dollar was left unused. We've also continued to work closely with our partners at Head Start to make sure that they are supported to maximize every single federal resource that's coming in, so that they can turn those dollars coming from the feds into services, 2-generation services for our most vulnerable families. We know, as I described before, that more providers are taking public dollars, and that results in higher capacity to serve publicly funded kids in our private settings. And I think this is really important. We'll talk about VQB5 in a second, but if you'll remember back to the days when we talked about this idea of a mandatory measurement and improvement system, there was a deep concern that might result in reduced access. And instead, because of the work of this body around the thoughtfulness around VQB5, the thoughtfulness about some of the changes to the child care center regulations, and ultimately the work to better fund and stabilize the funding for the child care subsidy program, we've seen the opposite trend, and we continue to see the growth and the number of providers that were willing to take public dollars. And it's always a choice in Virginia to take for a private provider if they want to take public dollars. Next slide, please. We see continued progress thanks to the work of our vice chair and our other Ready Region representatives like Duran and others on coordinating enrollment, making it easier for families to find information and submit applications. And so we've got 5 of our 9 regions piloting the Ready to Find online marketplace, and we continue to see thousands and thousands of families using these resources. Next slide, please. We are excited as we start to pivot and look forward, thinking about how ways in which we can better support our private providers. So we know that we've got more of them than ever before, but we also know, based on some work that we've done with outside consultants, that there are some challenges around making sure that you can sign up easily, that if there are payment issues, you can resolve that. We'll talk in a little bit later about our attendance tracking, but we are at the DOE have recently created a new office, the Office of Early Childhood Public-Private Provider Services, that includes staff from the Office of Vendor Relations at the Department of Social Services. Thanks to Commissioner Erskine and all of his team for their support on this collaboration, but really having an office that's explicitly focused on processing these applications, encouraging folks to be a part of child care subsidy, making sure if you've got questions or concerns, you know who to call, and then partnering with our navigators who are out there working in the field to help you with your health or safety expectations, what it means to be a publicly funded program, how to connect with our now team, which is about 175 people now, much larger than we used to be. How you can find out and get the answer you need from us. So that's an exciting update for the video aid. Next slide, please. And then as we go forward, the numbers I talked about before, this is where we get the pure near doubling. These are the slots that we're currently putting into place for this year. So you see just 75,000 slots available for fiscal year 26. That's up about 5,000 from last year and up 38,000 from 2018. Some of this involves some shifts that we'll talk about, kind of moderate increase in co-payments, really encouraging and limiting job search, but we're sort of working with you all. We're sort of achieving a historic investment and serving more kids than ever before. Next slide. And as we pivot and prepare to go into, we sort of think to the future, the challenge still remains, and I know is on the top of everybody's mind, around managing our wait list. So as of September 1st, just under 14,000 children on the child care subsidy wait list and just under 2,000 children on the mixed delivery wait list. So about 8,000 children, just under 9,000 children on the birth to 5 children on child care subsidy, and then all of those 2,000 children are birth to 5 for mixed delivery. So where do we go from here? A couple of important points. Continuing to work very closely with the commission and all of you as we make policy shifts to make the most of every single dollar. So implementing the new family co-payments and job search expectations this year was a big part of our summer in preparing for the fall. We continue to work very closely with the commission on early childhood care and education as they're looking at this unmet demand and thinking about future financing. We also have important partnerships with UVA and other higher ed institution and organizations to understand the impact of wait lists. So we'll be announcing soon results of a family survey for families who are impacted by the wait list and some of the ways in which that's been challenging as they think about employment and their economic well-being, improving our customer service, and as we'll talk a little bit later on in our update, launching our new modernized attendance tracking system in December. Next slide, please. We're going to hold on quality improvement to the end, and so we'll move forward to the next slide, please. Family engagement, next slide. We, as always, put parents and families at the center of our work, and so we shared kind of in the state of the state, kind of the accomplishments in this space. This is really made possible by the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation and the Ready Regions, who have convened family councils, which is our formal mechanism in each of our 9 Ready regions to build regional systems and advise the state on initiatives. Last year, we had just under 200 families participating, about 22 families per region. And we have asked them everything on stuff from mixed delivery to coordinated enrollment to what do they think about the VKRP resources or the website to kind of how do we think about, implementing hard things like the co-payments. We also work closely with the Virginia Promise Partnership Parent Advisory Group as they too also give us their insight. What do they like? What don't they like? How can we make these systems and these efforts work better for families? We also, in the State of the State, recognize that we have parent representatives on both the Early Childhood Advisory Committee and the Commission, so that they are at the table as these bodies think about policy and practice for early childhood care and education statewide. Next slide, please. As we go forward on family engagement, continuing to build on these institutions, right, that sort of started as an idea, very new in terms of the Ready region, are now kind of hopefully more lasting, permanent institutions within their communities. So the family councils and working around the coordinated enrollment to make it work easier for families. We will be excited to share the results of the family survey of the waitlist families as we kind of prepare this next governor and general assembly for thinking through how will we address Virginia's very large wait lists and the sort of the need to support families to be able to access affordable childcare, and really at every turn, making sure that families are front and center as we think about statewide policy and practice. We made some enhancements, as I'll talk about at the end, to the VQB5 quality profile website. We got, even in the first day, we had nearly 10,000 visits. And so making it more friendly, more mobile friendly has been a top priority. And we continue to look at how do we make all of the things that we're doing more clear, more understandable, more accessible to families, whether that's about VQB5 or VKRP or curriculum. How do we do that better in more languages and in a way that is more deepens family understanding of all of the important work happening across your sites and classrooms? Next slide, please. Health and safety, another big year in this space. Next slide. We did thousands and thousands and thousands of observations, and I had the opportunity to be in front of our team out in Powhatan this morning, just reflecting on how much work that they did last year, and that they serve this essential role in making sure that families can trust that our programs are safe and healthy. They have strengthened their supports for the field, whether that's updating the orientation training, looking at how to revise the exemption to licensure form, so that is a streamlined and more expedient process, and then offering some free trainings in both English and Spanish in partnership with the Community College Workforce Alliance. We give you these numbers. We still you see more inspections than last year as we have more programs. So that's a good sign. I will say, if you look at the national data on childcare and early childhood supply, most folks are going in the opposite direction. Fewer sites, fewer family day home sites, fewer educators than pre-pandemic. Virginia is really doing the opposite in terms of really building supply. And so there are more inspections, but you see that we held constant in terms of complaints, and we actually had fewer allegations of unlicensed activity. We do have a slightly more follow-up actions, and so we continue to kind of monitor how much work that we have. Next slide, please. We also are working, and we'll talk more about these in these updates. I'm not going to talk a ton about that here, but obviously, we've got some work underway on the general procedures, background checks, and the standards for the CDCs. We put into effect a new exemption to licensure in response to law, and then Jeff will talk a little bit later about the pre-service training. And so as we go forward, there's really two priorities, and I shared these with the team this morning, and you were to hear me be a broken record on these, but we got to get these regulations through and implemented. We know you guys have spent hours and hours as a body on these, and so that is top priority, and we got to get a new technology that will make all of this less burdensome for providers and our staff alike. So this is what I talk with Jeff about every single week when we check in, but these are our absolute top priorities for health and safety as we move forward. We also want to continue to strengthen our partnership with providers. It is our job to partner with the thousands of private and publicly funded private partners across the state to improve health and safety for kids. And that means partnership, training, support, and pre-service will be an important part of that. Next slide, regional capacity and innovation. Highlights here, we like to think of ourselves as building a national model, and a part of that means taking what we know about Virginia's programs, sites, educators, and families, and using that information and empowering folks at the local level to develop innovations that work best for their communities, their providers, their families, and their kids. So just a sampling of some of the innovative work that's happening out in the field. Really exciting, Ready Together out in Southwest Virginia, partnering to have business help contribute to the cost of childcare for employees. So the state, employers, and families are all contributing and kind of piloting a new model there, thinking about how we can more quickly and expediently attract, prepare, and retain educators. It's still the biggest issue when I'm talking with the field, whether it's Head Start or childcare. How do we find educators and keep them? We're piloting a new digital wallet in the spring, thinking about kind of technology that can help employers contribute towards the cost of childcare, but wanting to not only rest on some of the accomplishments that I've just described, but to continue to innovate because we know there are pain points, we know there are challenges, and want to support everybody to be successful and working together to help prepare all kids for kindergarten. And we couldn't do this without Ready Regions, and we're so excited to have our Ready Region reps on the call, on the ECAC, excuse me, sort of helping us think through, how do we do this work in a way that meets the unique needs of Virginia communities? This cannot and will not just be designed in Richmond, but has to involve meaningful local leadership, accountability, and family engagement across the state. And so we had the process that we do every 3 years where we have to recompete for the Ready Regions. We have the 9 entities who were selected, and they continue to meet 100% of the expectations. So they have a very rigorous contract with the state to build these relationships, get the data in the system, measure quality, coordinate enrollment, and engage families, and they continue to meet and exceed all those expectations. You'll hear us talk more about this. You might remember this when we received the federal preschool development grant about a year and a half ago or so. And what that allows us to do is to build the technology to pilot a digital wallet. And what this would do would enable an employer or a local philanthropy or local government or even family members to donate towards a child's early childhood care and education. So there's a donation portal. The family can create a wallet for a child and then direct dollars directly to early childhood providers, and then the providers can register and receive payments. So we have selected a vendor. The vendor's name is Rotation, and we are looking to launch in the spring of next year. And that would be, again, we'll look to the governor will be talking with businesses. We'll engage with the foundation and Ready Regions, thinking through who might be interested in piloting and using this technology. Okay, what's next here? We really excited. The team is out and about doing what we call Ready Region deep dives. If you are the type of person who loves the state of the state and wants to go deep on data, you can, we have in each of the Ready Regions, our VQB5 team does a fantastic, in partnership with the Ready Regions, deep dive, and we'll look at all of the data from last year. We are continuing to think about how we have used all of this new information and support, whether it's our improvement partners who provide coaching or support, whether it's higher ed partners who often offer the associate's degree programs, the early childhood education programs, or whether it's our Ready Regions. How do we think about helping others to use this data to increase understanding, support improvement, and ultimately drive investment? With our new Office of Public-Private Provider Services, looking at how we make sure we continue to attract new providers and support existing providers to expand their capacity, and looking at how we continue to engage the business community. And so we're kind of monitoring what's happening federally in terms of the new tax credit opportunities, and we're continuing to work very closely with the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation, who's supporting things like the Shovel Ready Task Force and the Business Roundtable, so that we make sure that business is at the table as we think about how we can maximize all of the opportunity that early childhood presents for the state. All right. let me pause there and see if there are any questions about my faster version. Normally that is 59 minutes exactly. My faster version of the state of the state, and see what questions folks may have before I turn it over to Jeff for a brief update on pre-service training.
Right. I think I've given everybody enough time. This group's usually pretty on the ball about jumping in if they have questions or concerns. Just real quickly before I do an update on pre-service, because I was not present this when we got started, I want to do a quick introduction of a new staff person that we have with OCCHS, Amy Rathbun. Oh, she just got kicked out of the meeting, so technology at its best.
Boy, that was a good timing.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to meet you. I'm Amy Rathbun, the new director of OCCHS, and I look forward to working with all of you.
So like Jenna said, we're having some training out in Powhatan. We're kind of getting some of our staff together. We like doing cross-pollination is probably the best way of saying it, just to make sure we're all kind of on the same page. So Jenna was able to come out and a chance for Amy to start meeting the team. So we'll do more introductions, kind of as we go on, but we're really excited to have her as part of the team. We're also really excited about some of the experience and just education she has, lots of research experience. So we're really excited to capitalize on that and data processing. So jumping right in, next one, please, on the pre-service training. So most of this hopefully is just a reminder about what we're doing regarding the pre-service training. So as a reminder, HB 1024, kind of in response to JLOC recommendations, surveys, listening sessions, pretty much everybody agreed it was time to give our pre-service training an update. So the slide here is just basically kind of what we're proposing, what we're working towards, what we're working with Penn State University to implement. A little bit of a tweak to this model, and just want to kind of highlight that there will be a core section for everybody who's working in childcare, whether it's a home or a center, that there'll be a core content for all ages, and listening to the feedback as well as our own thought process, breaking the training out into modules, a center-based module that will then be geared even further for birth to 5 training, as well as school age training. So we want to make sure that we're doing adequate, thorough training, but not overkill for, let's just say, the high school freshman, the college freshman that's just going to work a summer camp. Probably doesn't need to know much, if anything, about birth to 5. So we've got center-based school age care, whereas a home-based program is going to need to know all ages. And so all of this will be less than 10 hours, unless you take things that might not necessarily be applicable to you. Like if you take both the core content, the center-based birth to 5, center-based school age, and home-based, it's going to be a little bit over 10 hours. But for 99.9% of the staff, it is going to be less than the current 10 hours of training. Next, please. So we are going to phase this in, and that is to get this going as quickly as possible without sacrificing quality for speed. So the pre-service core and the school age section or module will both be fully, it's estimated the launch dates will be the end of January. And then we'll do center birth to 5 by April 30th and family day home birth through school age April 30th as well. Questions or concerns about that before I transition into regulations? Again, hopefully this is nothing new and is a refresher, but definitely want to give you all an opportunity for questions or concerns. We're really, really excited about this. Everybody who's working on it is like, this is going to be some really nice stuff. It's going to be some clean information, newer videos with staff, that's from childcare providers here in Virginia as much as we can. So it's a lot excited about where we're going with this. Next, please. So licensing regulations, and this is a mixed bag of a little bit of frustration, but a little bit of excitement. we have been working on this, and I say we because pretty much everybody on this video right now has had some play in whether it's updating the CDC standards, just kind of working through background checks and general procedures. So want to kind of talk about something quickly first is you might have seen in Readiness Connections some NORAs that have gone out. And those NORAs have gone out as an administrative necessity to combining the background check regulation with the general procedures. We are almost across the finish line with that. It is currently in the Secretary's office. We're really hoping, and I know a lot of people have been working behind the scenes trying to get these moving. And so once the general procedures and background checks come out of the Secretary's office and goes to the Governor's office, we'll be talking about implementing hopefully within the next 3 to 6 months. Again, there's lots of variables in there, but we are cautiously optimistic that we will be able to get those moving. The licensed child day center standards are also in the Secretary's office. However, it's the proposed regulation that is there. What that means is once it comes out of the Secretary's office and is reviewed by the governors, it will be published for a 60-day public comment period. So as a reminder, we did something innovative a number of years ago, and in our NORA for these regulations, we also gave out some proposed language. So we got a lot of good feedback. And so we are optimistic that the feedback now will just maybe be tweaks and that we won't get quite the feedback that we did the first time because we did the heavy lift up front. Once it goes through public comment, we as the department will take it, we'll analyze the public comments, we'll come back to you as ECAC saying, here's the feedback, suggested changes, suggest we move forward, work with you, board approval, hopefully would come shortly thereafter, and then we can kind of go through the remaining steps. So just to kind of level set, that is probably looking to be another 6-month process with the understanding that, General Assembly is coming up. So just to kind of let everyone know, we still got a little bit more running to do with these regs before we're at the point of talking about implementation. Next, please. So a couple of things, pretty much the majority of this slide is about the fast track for epinephrine. It is currently at the Secretary's office and Governor's office. Sometimes those are a little bit synonymous. It's an official process, but the Secretary's office and Governor's office are looking really, really closely and talking to each other about that. Once it comes out of there, there'll be a 30-day public comment. Period will commence. There's still a lot of ambiguity about how this is going to move forward. We're actually meeting, with the Governor's office and Secretary over the course of the next couple of weeks. And so hopefully have a better idea about where we are in that process by the time we meet yet again. So the last one, the child care subsidy exempt action is we're kind of waiting for it to be published in the registrar. And then once that is done, then we'll kind of be talking about an effective date. So I'm going to pause there for questions about the licensed child day center standards, general procedures background check. Remember, we're combining those. So that's one regulation, or the child care program subsidy exempt action. If you do have something that comes up later, absolutely feel free to reach out. Just reach out to kind of anybody on the team. You can email me directly and we'll get some answers there. But we're excited about the potential. Things are looking good. We just got a little bit longer wait and hopefully can get some things rolling. And just for the record, as soon as we have some ideas about implementation date, we'll be publishing things in the Readiness Connections. We'll be doing training, in-person training, virtual trainings, webinars, and we will do everything we can to help everyone make sure they know what's upcoming as best we can. So thanks. And Amy and I are going to stick around for a few more minutes. If you have some questions, we can do in chat, but then Amy and I are going to jump so we can kind of go back to doing some in-person teams. I do see a chat. Give me 1 second. Will there be a lump sum fee for background checks and other associated fees for the providers? We cannot do any kind of lump sum fee structure. Background check costs are controlled by the Office of Background Check Regulation and other states. So right now, we, VDOE, are not charging any fees for anything. We aren't charging fees. We aren't doing civil penalties right now. We're doing negative action through other effective ways. We're not charging fees for new applications. So the fees that we're talking about for background checks that will start in January are for OBI, Office of Background Check, as it pertains to fingerprinting. So there's still been a charge for the portability. There's a charge for CRS, and the background check fees that will start up are just for OBI and state police and FBI. And there's not a good way to lump that together. I've mentioned in the past that we're looking to have OBI do the out-of-state background checks. That might change fees a little bit in terms of being able to lump together. We're not real sure, but at this time it's probably best to say we don't see any lumping of things together. Jenna, anything else on that? I think I've covered it, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And there's not much flexibility we have in terms of this is not we're just the messenger here on many of these fees.
Any other questions? Really enjoyed seeing many of you on Tuesday. Congratulations for those who are honored. Just keep up the good work. And as always, if something comes up related to health and safety, please reach out to us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks.
All right. We'll turn it over to Becca.
All right. I think we have discussed our shift in IT systems for attendance tracking in the subsidy program with this body before. So I'm going to keep my updates pretty brief today, but please do feel free to drop questions in the chat or come off mute as we go here if you have any additional questions as we go. If you'll jump to the next slide, please, Emma. So just as a reminder, our new attendance tracking system is called Child Care Pass, and that stands for Program Attendance and Schedule System, which is an application-based software program that will allow us to really simplify and reduce the administrative burden associated with tracking attendance, both for families and for providers. Will really improve our visibility into attendance data looking ahead. So that system launches on December 1. All providers and families will begin using PASS in one form or another on December 1st. Those of you that are providers should be receiving communications from Kinder Systems, who is our vendor on this project, a national leader in childcare technology solutions. If you're not, please do reach out to me so that we can make sure that we've got the right email address for you. But we are, getting information out about activating accounts and getting providers and families trained to use the system, and we'll be providing a ton of updates coming up here, and I'll talk about those more momentarily. If you'll jump ahead to the next slide, Emma. So I want to just quickly talk through some of the key features of PASS that we're really excited about. And again, I don't think that this is going to be review for many of you, but just want to sort of reiterate some of these key points as we are getting closer and closer to implementation. So one of the things that was a big priority for us as we were thinking about the implementation of this system is that we wanted to minimize change for as many providers as possible in terms of allowing them to continue to use the system that they currently use for tracking attendance to the extent possible. And so currently Kinder Systems has somewhere in the ballpark of 23 to 25 partner child care management systems that they integrate with. And providers that are currently using a partner system will be able to continue using that system in order to track attendance for families. So there will be a nightly data exchange. The state will only get data for children that are enrolled in the child care subsidy program. And that will really reduce the extent to which families are having to record attendance multiple times and that providers are having to track attendance in multiple places looking ahead. So there'll be some targeted resources and trainings for providers that are going to be creating an account in PASS, but really are going to continue using the system that they're currently using as their primary system of record. Now, another group of providers will be using PASS as their primary tool. And for those, something that we felt very strongly about, again, was that there needed to be multiple modalities to record attendance to minimize the likelihood that there are missed records and to promote accuracy and consistency in recording. So basically what that will look like is all providers can have attendance recorded on a tablet at their site. That is something that the state will provide to eligible providers at no cost if providers want them, or you can use a tablet of your own if you'd prefer to do that. And families can sign in using one of the sort of platforms as part of the suite of the Kinder Systems tools to check their children in. Families can also designate other trusted adults to check their children in and out. Say it's a babysitter or a grandparent, a neighbor, a carpool buddy, right? We recognize that it is not always the primary parent that is dropping the child off or picking them up. And this system actually enables that in the technology functionality so that there is no passing a card back and forth or anything along those lines when it is not the parent that is doing drop off or pickup. Parents can also use a QR code on their cell phone. And so there will be, instructions on how parents can download that app, where providers need to post the information, and sponsors, those other designees can use the QR code as well. So, and then if all else fails, providers will be able to record attendance in PASS themselves in order to, again, eliminate the extent to which there are missed records. And again, that ability for multiple actors and multiple modalities for attendance recording was a big priority for us going into this design effort, recognizing the really big challenges that the current system presents, where only one or two people are able to record attendance. And if they forget, it's a nightmare for everybody involved to get caught up. Another feature of this system is that it can be used to record attendance for all enrolled children, including those that are private pay. And that'll enable providers to really be able to use this as their primary attendance tracking system if they want to. And that is totally optional. And that is, in no way is an obligation, but it's a nice feature for providers that might not have an IT system for this purpose to use looking ahead. There are also some nice features in the system, like automated notifications to remind providers and to remind families if attendance was missed. And that way, either the provider or the family can log that attendance within the kind of 8-day look back period, again, to ensure that we've got those consistent records. Providers are also going to be able to enter their operating schedules. And that means that you will be able to indicate the days that you are open and the days that you are closed, as well as the times that you are open and closed. That eliminates errors in attendance recording, right? You will be able to indicate presence on days when a provider is not open and operating. But it also means that those what are currently sort of hard-coded paid holidays in our existing system, you all will be able to determine when you want to get paid for those paid days of closure. So if you are a site and you're not closed on, just as an example, Veterans Day, and you would like to use that paid holiday on another day, you can do that. That is, your discretion. And we're hoping that flexibility will really enable providers to kind of maximize the paid days of closure that are available to them, rather than sort of forcing the state holiday schedule on providers that I know from my own experience, my provider doesn't operate on that state holiday schedule. And then I know a topic that has come up in this body before is the issue around access to Wi-Fi. So the system and tablets can operate off of Wi-Fi or without internet for an indefinite period of time, but they've got to be synced on a regular basis in order for that to be connected to, or the data to be transmitted to VDOE. So that sort of ability for the data to be recorded and stored locally is a really important feature, particularly for those of you that are in, Wi-Fi deserts, or who lack reliable access to the internet, or just for random happenstances when internet goes out. But they do need to be synced regularly. And I know that's a concern that's come up, that we've not been able to track down sort of a specific sort of number of providers that this might impact. Would ask if you are aware of sites that might have this challenge, please do have them reach out to us. We're trying to get an assessment of the number of sites that this would be a challenge for, so that we can begin sort of troubleshooting this issue looking ahead. And I know we've been syncing up with our VQB5 team on this, and we're only aware of 2 providers that had to do the paper entry into VQB5 for registration in the last year. And so, but recognize that is also a more kind of one-off need than an ongoing attendance tracking. So again, we'll definitely ask for folks to reach out to us if this is an anticipated pain point. And then something that we're especially excited about, and the single bullet on this slide doesn't really do it justice, is the really detailed and real-time data that this system is going to be able to provide to VDOE. Because of some of the features of the current system, there's both a lack of sort of nuanced or complex reporting that we're able to access. And there are also, just given the user challenges of the current system, there are some concerns that we have about the reliability of the data in the system. And I think you all that are providers or that work with families, know that as well as we do, if not even better. And so we're really excited to be able to have a platform that has some controls that will promote more accurate and consistent recording, which makes the data inherently better quality, but then also to be able to access that data in real time and in the sort of broken out ways that will enable us to both make some informed policy decisions as we continue to think about what do we need to do to maximize resources and ensure that children that are participating in the program are really using the services, but that also will allow us to draw connections and conclusions with our child level outcome data and our classroom quality data down the line, right? We all know inherently that in order for a child to really benefit from a high quality early childhood classroom experience, they have to be physically present. They've got to be in the classroom. And having, better, more detailed data on attendance will help us to draw some connections around, dosage or participation levels and implications for child outcomes down the line in a way that we're really excited about. Next slide, please. So like I said, if you are a provider, you hopefully should have been getting contacted by Kinder Systems, should be hearing about this system from VDOE. This slide highlights a few upcoming milestones over the course of the next couple months leading up to go live. This is a snapshot. It's not, a super in the weeds detailed, though those are coming very soon. But this week, we started registering providers for the training series that will begin in November. So you should have gotten an email from Kinder Systems inviting you to register for training opportunities next month. Later this month, Kinder Systems is going to start shipping tablets to providers. If you are a provider that wanted a tablet, and instructions and information about that will be coming to providers individually with tracking information and more details on shipment so that folks can be prepared and aware to receive those. Beginning in November, we will have virtual trainings and office hours that will be ongoing into December, right? It was really important that we had these both leading up to, but also after the launch of the system, recognizing that it is one thing to prep folks to use it, and it is another to start using it, and that folks might need some continued assistance or might need opportunities for additional touch points with the IT vendor going into or following the launch of the system, just to make sure everything is up and running smoothly. And so those trainings will be a little different depending on whether you are using your current CCMS, your current management system, and transmitting your data to PASS, or whether you are using PASS as your primary system. And so when you're looking at the registration opportunities, providers are really going to want to kind of pay attention to the right opportunity for them. There will also be weekly office hours. So if folks are having kind of specific troubleshooting needs, the office hours are a great opportunity to get some hands-on assistance with those challenges. And starting November 3rd, folks will also be able to start registering for accounts in PASS. So the idea is that ideally, most folks will be able to have their tablet, create their account, and do their training with sort of all of the equipment and materials on hand. The last day that we will be accepting any attendance in the current system is November 30th. And starting on December 1, we will PASS launches and we'll start recording attendance in PASS. And more details will be coming up on this, or more information, I should say, more detailed information will be coming out soon. But I want to mention to you all that we are planning for and accounting for some bumps in the road, and we'll be having a longer look back period for recording attendance at the very beginning of the system launch, just to ensure that we are able to get all attendance records, starting on December 1st in the system, and that, IT related challenges or account registration challenges are not the reason that folks can't get their attendance, incorporated into the system effectively. We'll also be getting information out to you all from the current attendance tracking system vendor, Conduent, about what to do with your POS machines, which is nothing. You can get rid of them. You don't have to send them back. They actually don't want them back. And so they will be communicating that directly with providers. And we'll be making sure that we post that communication online so that it's in an accessible place. And are going to be kind of ramping up our communications on this, as we get closer and closer to the launch. So please do keep an eye out for readiness connections. There will be weekly updates on PASS leading up to December 1st and thereafter. And we're really going to be getting notices out by email on key dates and activities. Again, including those training schedules for providers, resources for families. We know that, we'll be sending information directly to families, but we also know that families are going to come directly to providers and are going to want to reach out to you all for assistance. And so we'll be making sure that family-related resources are getting shared with our providers as well as with our Ready Region partners. And more instructions on sort of the decommissioning or closing out of the current system as well. Our website, vapass.info, has of some on-demand training videos and resources ready to go as well. And we'll be adding more details, more resources to that site as they become available. Any questions before we move on to the next section? I'll pull the chat up, see if anything.
Becca, I have one question.
Sure.
With the virtual trainings, would a center director can a center director do the resource trainings that are offered in lieu of the virtual trainings, or is there a need to do both?
So the trainings are all 100% optional. And so there will be like recorded on-demand trainings, and those are sort of more in those little like snippety, very module-based training formats where
Maybe just
it'll
get in
be-
and answer a specific question.
Exactly. That's
Right.
exactly right, Clark. And so if you, there will also be written instructions on how to do all the things that the trainings are going to tell providers how to do. This is a very good question. So this is all completely optional, right? If you can use the resources that are available sort of asynchronously to get your account set up, get logged into your tablet, and get all squared away, you don't need to participate in any of the trainings.
Okay.
So it's totally at your discretion and based on your comfort level with, using a new system.
Great. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Becca, quick question. For the
Yeah.
providers that aren't tech savvy, is there any paper format that they could use to help them with this new system?
So there will be no paper submission of attendance going forward. There will be some like PDF sort of guides on how to set up an account and things along those lines. And that's also a great opportunity for folks to go to office hours in terms of getting some one-on-one assistance with something they might be experiencing challenges with. And Jerome, we can make sure that all of our Ready Region partners are getting information about the trainings as well. Should you all want to be able to kind of poke around and see what's available, should you all be getting questions from providers and want to be able to point them in the right direction? But this will be a fully virtual system with no sort of real mechanism for manual attendance going forward. We're hopeful that in general, it will be families that are recording attendance, right? That's the general expectation, that folks are using their smartphones, using that QR code, or using the on-site tablet if needed. And providers are really going to be mostly or primarily charged with being able to check attendance records in the system, right? Log into their account and navigate sort of the back end of the platform. And the trainings will cover sort of all of that functionality, as will those, they call them quick reference guides, or quick reference checks, QRCs, these documents online that sort of have the very quick snapshots of, if you need to do this very specific thing, here's how you do it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Becca, how parents are going to be informed of these changes?
Yep. So we are working on getting some communications out to families with a heads up that this shift is coming. We are trying to strike the balance between getting enough information out, but not getting ahead of ourselves, right? We don't want families to unintentionally stop recording on Conduit, right? They've got to keep using Conduit right up to the very end, that November 30th date, which is the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend, just for those of us that are not calendar oriented. So we're actually, cautiously optimistic that the sort of need and use of the system will peter down, right? Given the holiday that weekend. Expect that many sites are going to be closed. Of course, not all, and we know that many folks still need care on the weekends or through holidays. But generally, we see a drop in utilization around holiday periods. but we will be sending communications directly from VDOE. We'll be sharing all of those communications with local caseworkers in the Department of Social Services so that if they get questions from families, they're aware. And then we'll also, as I indicated, be providing all of those family communications to providers, but then also giving providers sort of family facing tools that they can use or offer to families, again, so that they've got what they need to know, whether the only instruction is to stop using your swipe card, right? Or whether the instruction is both to stop using your swipe card and use this new system going forward. Because obviously that'll differ a little bit based on whether an individual site is using their childcare management system or not, if they're going to use PASS.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Appreciate these from you all. It's like you're in our brains. We are working hard to get all of these this information out to our partners and families and providers. So huge thanks to the team who's been got their heads down and are not with us on the call right now, but who are working hard to keep things moving here. All right. Well, you all have my information. If you do have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And again, please keep an eye out in your emails for more to come here.
Excellent. Thank you, Becca. Thank you, members, for your very thoughtful questions. We have had a lot of technology implementation this season, whether it's implementing VA Connects, which came with some challenges at the outset, some of the shifts in terms of co-payments and all of that technology, and then this is how we will finish out the year. So in advance, just a thank you and appreciation. Ultimately, these technologies help our systems work better. I know it doesn't feel like that in the beginning, and I know our teams work very hard to anticipate what might go wrong and how to address those. But as we've talked about, when you implement big systems across thousands of end users, it is really, really challenging to kind of dot every I and cross every T. And we just appreciate the patience of everybody as we are. If we can't make it perfect at the outset, just want to be really responsive and improving it. I wanted to provide everybody with an update on the work group that looked at the future of care for school-age children in Virginia. If we can move to the next slide, please. We are required to produce a report. It does not go to the Board of Education. It actually is expected to go to the commission and to the governor and General Assembly. But what we've tried to do is, in our thoughtful stewardship of both this entity and the commission, making sure when there are relevant things that both groups should see, that you all receive an update on this. So this is still a work in progress, but wanted to share with you what occurred this summer and what will be going to the commission and ultimately into a report this fall. This work group and report were required by budget and law. So Senate Bill 1084, which created a new exemption for out-of-school time programs, required a work group and a report by December 1st, and the early childhood section of the budget that is looking at school-age care and child subsidy required us to take a look at access, cost, and quality. And so we have combined those two charges and created and ran a work group over the course of the summer. Next slide, please. The group came together. We did require 3 in-person meetings because of the newness of this group. We hadn't necessarily had a formal convening of stakeholders who are explicitly focused on school age time. And so we had everybody come in person and we looked at the system, the landscape, the strengths, the areas for improvement. We discussed models and best practices and began to set the vision for the future about a school time. And then we looked and kind of went through the short and long-term recommendations. There were lots of icebreakers, there were post-it notes, there were lots of ideas, with the ultimate goal being to produce a report with broad recommendations, examples of activities, and then to put that out there. So sometimes we have reports and then the VDOE takes action after those reports. At other times we have reports and we just make sure that we are public with the findings of that report. And this is an example of that. So we wanted you all to be aware of that and kind of, again, sort of how it came together. There's not an explicit action needed by this body or by the DOE following this or the Board of Education, but just wanted to be sure you were aware. Next slide, please. So we had everybody talk in depth about health and safety. So really thinking through what should the health and safety expectations be for the incredible array of programs that serve kids, typically from the ages of 6 to 12, across sort of out of school time, really after school, before school, and summers. We talked about quality and the kind of different current existing measurements, some of the work by VPost, and then where there were some gaps. There was even talk of a VQB12 or kind of thinking about an extension of VQB5. And then we talked about access and funding, and just that there's similar to what we see in early childhood, a scarcity of resources available, and probably far more many kids, particularly in working families, who could benefit from out of school time and services, but there's just not enough slots or dollars available. And so we see kind of their pictures of some of the post-it notes and all the many ideas that came forward. Next slide, please. So as we look at these groups, and we will be sure to share with this body the final report after we go to the commission, but a couple of key things just to highlight in these areas. So we recognize that there's a lot of complexity in how we think about health and safety with school age now. We have a pretty complicated section of law on exemptions, and sort of knowing what all of this means, and almost to Cecilia's point about, helping families understand that was one potential area that we could work on. We also talked about kind of more supports from VDOE around health and safety, and then a range of ideas on should we have more alternatives to licensure and what kind of potential changes to regulations and statutes might we want. You'll see in the report that there is not, we were not necessarily asking for a consensus around like one particular idea, but instead wanted to gather the range of opinions. And you'll see that the different people had different perspectives on how many and what changes they might want to see in terms of law and regulations. On quality, there was a lot of talk about how we do or do not measure that, and how to think about that in a way that would both potentially elevate the important quality elements of out of school time and make that more consistent statewide, but also recognizing that that would entail quite a bit of work, right? That there's some great foundational work around quality in out of school time, but from collecting that data to supporting people to be successful, that would involve or kind of necessitate a pretty comprehensive multi-year strategy. But you'll see in that section some really interesting ideas related to that, and I think we heard overall a desire and sort of even a little bit of jealousy, I might say, from our out of school time providers on all the incredible quality measurement and improvement work that the early childhood sector has done in recent years. And some of our partners who are familiar with the work that you all have done really see that as a model, which is again flattering to each of us, each of you who've done this important work. And then on access, really thinking about how do we maximize every dollar that exists, the need to do fiscal maps and better understand all of the many sources. In some ways, even though the early childhood landscape is complicated, we're down to kind of, 4 or 5 key funding sources, right? State, federal, and some consistency there versus out of school time involves a lot more different sources and is quite a bit more complicated. And then kind of beginning to think about what additional levers might be available. So really exciting and interesting ideas. I know some of you do offer out of school time, and so we'll continue to monitor this. Anything that would directly affect regulations or that would go to the board would of course come to this body. But at this point in time, this is not calling for any explicit action. This is just a report that is a set of recommendations, and we will send this to you once this goes to the governor and General Assembly later this fall. Any questions about this? Next slide, please. All right. I think we saved the best for last, but just really excited to share with you. We can move one slide, please. Where we are with the rollout of the second year of VQB5 quality profile. So as you all know, we moved this meeting so that we could have the governor announce the rollout on Tuesday at a high quality site here in Richmond and really live stream his remarks along with the remarks from a parent, a business leader, and some of our other elected officials in what is truly a celebration of the incredible public-private partnerships and work that you all do every single day. We completed a very successful year from the rollout of the first year last fall to making sure that 100% of publicly funded programs are participating this year, and ultimately getting all these observations done for more than 11,300 classrooms. So a big year for us, and Tuesday really marked a celebration of not only the results of these profiles, but the entirety of this work over the year. Next slide, please. Our key messages, and hopefully if you've seen or heard any media or seen your Ready Regions, this is what we are emphasizing. It was a second successful year, hard to say that 3 times fast, in measuring quality to improve child outcomes at scale. The VQB5 quality profile website has had over 100,000 views in the last year and it is now up to 125,000 views, thanks to some of the activity of the last few weeks. We are truly showing the excellence of the work that you're doing, and we're excited to see so much improvement from year 1 to year 2. And we, thanks to the recommendations coming out of this body, which then ultimately went to the board and made it into the guidelines, where we sort of have honor roll designations for nearly 500 sites, 494 to be precise, across the Commonwealth that recognize excellence, high quality infant toddler programming, and significant improvement. We also know, even with those incredible sites, that across the board, across our 3,293 sites that receive profiles, the portion of them that were in year 1 and year 2, that across the board we had improvement in teacher-child interactions and use of curriculum. And all of this is made, do we lose there? Oh. This is a first. Okay, let's go back to our slides. The real question is, can I do this from memory? Only a few days in. But all of this is made more exciting by the fact that we have more publicly funded private providers than ever before, and we're serving more kids than ever before. So we know that that this is truly an accomplishment to not only grow and get bigger, but to be meeting those levels of quality is just a very big accomplishment. Okay, we back up here.
Hi, I think someone is accidentally sharing their calendar. I'm not sure whose that is. But it looks like someone accidentally took over screen share. Does anyone recognize that calendar? And try to take back over too.
I have it as maybe it's Melinda. That's the name that popped up on my screen. Melinda, is there any chance that you might have inadvertently shared that?
I can try to take back over as well. Let's see.
Yeah. Trying to send that information to my CEO actually. So yeah, that was probably me.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think I'm able to override that. So apologies. I was not able to see that it was not still sharing.
No worries.
Thank you.
All right. That's a new one for us. I've not seen that before. Okay.
I didn't know that could happen.
I know, Melinda, this keeping it interesting. I like it. I like it. Okay. So back to VQB5 profiles. I think, Emma, we are on that. Yeah, right there. Perfect.
Okay.
And if we could move to that next slide. Excellent. Okay. So huge accomplishments, 3,400 sites and more sites than last year. And we show this map to our legislators and community stakeholders saying that in every city and county in Virginia that we have VQB5 sites. And that's just so important as we think about that this system impacts every single one of our communities. Next slide, please. We released 3,293 quality profiles on Tuesday on this website. It did a refresh. And so there's now, if you look at it now, and it's listed there if you want to click on it. Although maybe don't click on it on your screen because who knows what happened. We might actually take us all there. We now have historic rating information for all of our sites. Our honor rolls are indicated on the website. There's more downloadable data files, and then we've worked on our search and sorting. So our folks were up as early as 3 in the morning, push and go on making sure that this site was ready to go on Tuesday. And as I noted, we had 9,600 views in that first 24 hours alone. So just showing us how many parents and stakeholders are going to this site to find out information about our programs. Next slide, please. The honor rolls, and this should look very familiar to this body as you all are ultimately the ones who endorse this this concept as is to be part of the VQB5 profiles, do a couple of really important things. Obviously, we evaluate and provide a numerical and rating for all of our 3,293 sites, but we also wanted to can do a couple of other things with the honor rolls. We wanted to elevate excellence and truly recognize those programs that were exceeding expectations. And because we use a national rigorous model or tool, right, the class system of observations, we know that sites that earn these high ratings can truly be considered national exemplars. And so not only providing them with an exceeds expectation rating, but also recognizing them on the excellence honor roll. We also know that we have more demand than ever before for infant and toddler options, and that these are sometimes the most, not sometimes, generally speaking, the most expensive classrooms, to run. This often requires the most, parental trust in terms of dropping off your baby, typically your nonverbal baby, in a setting where, their entire care, right, is up to our infant and toddler providers. And so these honor rolls really recognize the top 10%, those top scores in terms of infant and toddler interactions. We also knew, as we looked at the data, that there are some folks who might be pretty far off from exceeds expectations, and we wanted to make sure that we were truly incenting or motivating continual improvement. And so the improvement honor roll represents of all of the folks who made improvement from 23-24 to 24-25, who's in that top 10%, who's making those greatest gains in terms of improving their interactions. And then ultimately this becomes a way to put this information at parents' fingertips. And so understanding, okay, maybe this isn't the highest scoring site in my community, but they're making tremendous improvement and I'm really proud of them. Or I'm a parent of an infant and toddler and I really want to know sort of where I can find the highest of quality interactions for my littlest learners. So these are the benefits of these honor rolls, in addition to all of the information, right? The 31,000 observations and the 2.2 million minutes of insight that that is contained in this information in this website. Next slide, please. So everyone receives a quality rating certificate, important, and this is optional. We encourage folks to frame it so you can talk with parents about what it means to be part of VQB5 and to have these observations and to have these incentives for using curriculum, as well as those new honor roll certificates, and displaying them is optional, but we're hopeful that folks will put those up, post them on their social media, put them in their centers or homes, and truly recognize the incredible work that they've done. Next slide, please. You've heard me talk about this before, but these are the specific number on how many observations we completed, the incredible work of our ready regions that sort of collectively completed 22,625 class observations, and then the 8,600 and change of the external observations for 31,258 class observations. I'm the one who gets the privilege of sort of talking with leaders from other states, and people literally fall out of their chairs when I tell them how many class observations that you all have conducted and how much feedback has been provided to our educators. They often ask me whether I added an extra zero. They're like, maybe you did 3,100, right, class observations last year. That feels like a lot. And I say, no, we did 31,000. And that just means sort of not only having so much information about what kids are experiencing and be able to share that with parents, but so much more feedback for our educators and helping to support them to improve. Next slide, please. We also know if you look over time, and so this just looks at from 21, the beginning of the, from the 21-22 year up until last year, how much improvement we've seen in use of quality curriculum. So this is for Family Day homes and centers. You may remember that for school programs at Head Start, they're required to use curriculum, but where it's been optional, thanks to VQB5 and some of the supports that the state has provided, you see double-digit gains in the number of Family Day home and center-based classrooms choosing to use curriculum. Next slide, please. We're also excited that we have more VKRP being used. And so the reason this is important is VKRP, the preschool tool, looks at math, early literacy, social skills, and self-regulation for 3- and 4-year-olds. It's required for Virginia Preschool Initiative and Mixed Delivery and optional for Head Start and for any of our programs that take child care subsidy. We are, by using more and more of it, including those places where it's required and encouraging more programs to use it optionally, it helps us understand not only the quality of the interactions happening in those classrooms, what curriculum is being used, but kind of what we know about kids, what they're able to do, what they're learning, and how much they're growing over the course of the year. And so we'll be able to use this data in combination with some of the other data to truly help individualize supports and instruction for kids, while we're also using the other data to individualize the support for educators. So you can see how kind of all these different data points are coming together. Preschool VKRP continues to be optional, but we're hopeful that we can get more and more child care providers and family child care providers to use it to support kids to learn and grow and thrive. As a caveat or as a golden rule here, there are never high stakes, no stakes attached to VKRP. The class measure is that in curriculum are the only measures used for VQB5. This just helps us better support the unique and individualized needs of kids. We continue to support those sort of sites in greatest need. We had 51 sites last year that received need support. And I'm very pleased to announce that all of those sites moved out of need support and into meets expectations this year. And that's in large part thanks to the work of the video equality consultants and the Virginia Early Childhood Consultation. So this work has already begun for a handful of sites this year, but from the outset, the second we see those lower scores, making sure that we are going in, providing intensive support to these need support sites to better understand the importance of teacher-child interaction, how the class works, and to focus in on those social emotional environments. And a lot of coaching, professional development, and technical assistance is how we help make that improve. We also offer free resources and quarterly webinars to all VQB5 programs, as well as our ECE resource hub. So we focus in on those places that need the most support, right? So that what we ultimately can sort of promise to parents, no matter where you go in the state, that you'll meet a certain level of quality. But we have free resources for everybody who's part of VQB5 as well. Next slide, please. This was the launch of VA Connects, which connects LinkB5, the literacy screener, and VKRP. And as we talked a little bit about this earlier, a big accomplishment in being able to understand the power of the work that you're doing and its short and long-term impact on kids. And so that's a big accomplishment for the state. I had the opportunity to share this with other states, and folks just started spontaneously clapping. There's just so few examples in our country right now of sort of all of these data systems working together. And so they were just so very impressed with what you all are doing here in Virginia. And supporting families to understand VQB5 is really key. And so just a set of resources that we wanted to put back in front of you. We'll continue to work with the Ready Regions to make this sort of more understandable to families so that they know that they're choosing quality and that sort of encourages more and more providers to be a part of VQB5. Okay. This is just a quick snapshot on the results from this year, and again with encouraging folks to attend a Ready Region deep dive if you want to go really in depth here. So more sites participating than last year, and we went up to 99% of sites meeting or exceeding the state's quality expectations. So you'll see the chart here gives you a sense of more sites in the exceeds expectations, 101 up from 79, more sites in the meets expectations, and the place where we want to go in the opposite direction, fewer sites in the need support category. And so we do have 25 sites that fell in that category this year, but none of those were the 51 who we supported last year. So hopefully we can help these sites get into meets expectation and keep anybody from going back into that category next year. You'll see that we had excellence and quality across all of our settings. So you see we've got exceeds expectation. We've got good representation from public schools, 39 of the 101, family day homes, 36 of the 101, and child care centers, 26 of the 101. So really, truly being able to say we have national exemplars. It doesn't matter the type of building or the funding source that these may be found across all of our public-private settings. You see the same is true for meets expectation. And that's such an important message, and the reason why we wanted to have different provider types in the room with the governor earlier this week, so that we don't stereotype quality as being limited to a particular type of program, but truly recognize it takes all of us and that we have national exemplars across our different early childhood settings. Next slide, please. This gives you a sense of the improvement. And so our statewide average, not only do we have 99% of programs meeting expectation, but our statewide average in terms of our site score also increased up to 592, which is 4 points higher than last year's average. You see across the different site types that there's an improvement. So you'll see it's the average rating for this year as compared to the average rating for last year. And then you see the change in that final column. So you see improvement in public schools, family day homes, and childcare centers. And you'll see kind of the most improvement in terms of points in family day homes. You'll see that those averages, there's also that they're kind of the family day homes also were, potentially slightly lower on average, but then you see those really significant gains. So that kind of gives you a sense of where programs are, and also recognizing that all of our program types on average made improvement. As we talked about, these are the different honor rolls and the kind of the specific criteria for them. So you've got that in one place. I won't read every word on that slide, but just understanding kind of the detail about those honor rolls. And this gives you a sense. We're very pleased to announce that all program types and all ready regions and all program types and all ready regions were represented on the VQB5 honor rolls. And so as you look at this, you'll see the ready regions in that first column, and then you'll see the centers, the family day homes, and the public schools, and you'll see kind of the percentage of the rated sites that made that honor roll. So again, across the board, every community in the Commonwealth, every region should feel real pride in the accomplishments of its early childhood partner sites. This gives you a sense of the type and frequency of honor roll recipiency. I wanted to note that we had this is the number of honor roll sites, and then you'll see kind of who received 1 honor roll, 2 honor rolls, and 3 honor rolls. And so we had some sites that, including someone who is on this call today, who received all 3 honor rolls, and that is truly an extraordinary accomplishment. Okay, before I jump into what's next, I'd like to take a moment just to recognize, if I could have a moment of privilege, those folks who have on this group today who have been designated for the honor roll. I will start with the site leader for the site, and I hope she starts smiling now, who received and earned, rather, all 3 honor rolls. So Creative Learning School received the infant, toddler, the improvement, and the excellence honor roll, and is in a rarefied group of 19 sites statewide that receive that honor. So please, if we could join me in clapping and sort of congratulating Cecilia Suarez for what is an extraordinary accomplishment. Cecilia, would like to say anything?
I'm very excited. I was so happy to learn that we made it. Our love is with the children, so this is what we do. Try to do our best for the families, for the children.
Oh, Cecilia, thank you. I would like to note as a point of privilege that Ms. Suarez was at points had some concerns about this system and let us know in the early days about some of the very gave us some very useful feedback on how to think about rolling out class and making it work for all programs. And I just think that really to see that level of improvement and commitment, Ms. Suarez, it has always been about the children, but your ability to step up and to both help the state to do this well and to implement this well while providing such high quality care and education to your children and families is truly an accomplishment. And I think back to how hard this was in the beginning and how candid you were with your feedback and really appreciate that. And that has helped us make the system that much stronger. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize Northern Virginia Family Services Early Head Start at the Vermont Center, which earned the Improvement and Infant Toddler honor rolls, and had their other sites meet expectations. So congratulations to Melinda and Northern Virginia Family Services for that accomplishment. Very exciting. Melinda, would you like to say anything?
Just that it's all about the children.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. That is fantastic. I then want to recognize, and I've got a couple of these, so I'll go through these, but these are other Early Childhood Advisory Commission members whose either sites or if they represent school divisions, that they had sites within their school division earned honor rolls. So we have Jennifer Parrish and Peak Childhood Center, who earned infant toddler honor roll. Cheryl Mormon and the Blessings from Above Family Day Home infant toddler honor roll. Steps Head Start Amelia and Jessica Lehman, who received improvement honor roll. Mount Eagle Elementary in Fairfax received Excellence Honor Roll. Cardinal Forest Elementary Improvement Honor Roll. Belvedere Elementary Improvement Honor Roll. Woodley Hills Elementary Improvement Honor Roll. Center Ridge in both Excellence and Improvement. And then I've got January Takash representing them. And then we have Daryl Turner, and just a recognition for Richmond Public Schools and JB Fisher Elementary School, and Miss Johnson and all of the folks at JB Fisher who received excellent honor rolls. So just really exciting as we ask the team to look at who is represented here on the Early Childhood Advisory Committee meeting, and just all of the incredible work happening within your divisions, your Head Start grantees, and your sites, in a moment of just recognizing that. I also note that as I looked across all of our members, everybody is meeting or exceeding expectations, and just really appreciate your commitment to the children, and to being models for the rest of the state in not only providing the highest of quality experiences, but also spending your time, dedicating your time to helping us do this work better for the 3,293 sites across the state. Daryl, I see your hand is raised rather. Let me turn to you.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I might say my classroom is finally child free, so I can, kind of raise my hand, now. But, I just wanted to say that, I'm very proud of my colleague at JB Fisher. I know on Tuesday, they had announced, when they announced Fisher, I was a little surprised to kind of go up there, and, I wasn't expecting it. And, I did hear from my colleague at Fisher, and unfortunately, she wasn't aware of what was going on that day. So I just want to say for the record, I'm not at JB Fisher. I teach at MLK Preschool. So I just wanted to make sure that, all the incredible work Ms. Johnson and, the Fisher family over there, is recognized. And, I hope that, and I know it was human error, we all have that happen, but I just want to make sure that, BDOE will take the time to reach out to her, and the Fisher community to make sure that they have their moment. So I just wanted to, let the board know that, and let the public know that too, that, they've been doing some great things over there. And all of us in early childhood, in Richmond Public Schools, we definitely look to, Ms. Johnson for a lot of strategies to help us in our own classrooms too. So I just wanted to say kudos to her.
Absolutely. No, and that's a great point, Daryl. And again, I know that even some of the names that I called out, and I think the same is true for others on here, that there are so many educators behind this incredible work. And, we were recognizing site leaders and early childhood advisory committee members at the meeting this week. We wish we could have included every single site leader, as well as, of course, all of the educators, the lead teachers, the assistant teachers, the paraprofessionals. I think, Mr. Turner, as you noted, it truly takes all of us to support our littles from once they get on the bus or walk into the building to, their entire day. And, it is important as we think about supporting our Ready Regions to recognize the honor rolls that we do recognize every adult who supports and makes these high quality interactions possible. And I really appreciate that. And I think we are, this is new for us, and we've been working closely with the Ready Regions as we think through how do we kind of recognize, this honor roll sites. I will also say we had a lot of folks who scored very close to that, right? Who were very close to exceeds expectations, right? Or who were just below, right? That top 10%. And I just don't want, our recognition of the honor rolls to not, to in any way sort of dismiss what is just the incredible meaning of each meets expectation result and the score behind that. And as I look at, it is one of the sort of most detailed slide, but I look at that improvement across the board. It's not just numbers, right? It truly reflects, rigorous observation, an hour and a half, 2 hours of looking at what our educators are providing to children, their skills and their strengths, right? And their areas for improvement. And just the biggest accomplishment is truly those 31,000 observations and all that means for helping our educators and everybody who supports our educators to be the best that they can possibly be. And I think that's just such an important point. I think, on top of, sort of why we have the honor rolls. I also really appreciate Mr. Turner's point about recognizing these site leaders and educators as models that other can learn from. And I think sometimes we can lose sight of that. We sort of, the answer isn't always, PD in a box or something provided, kind of an additional credential or something like that. Sometimes we need to, recognize folks who are doing this work very well and thinking about how do we share those best practices. How can we all spend some time in Miss Johnson's classroom or at Miss Suarez or Miss Parrish's center, visiting these classrooms and Miss Langford's program, right, to kind of understand how they're making it work, even with all the challenges, even with the behaviors that might be challenging, even with the lack of funding and resources, even with the hardness that it is and the challenges that we face in 2025 and in early childhood, to know that we have these exemplars. And as Daryl talked about, the ability to go and learn from Miss Johnson and others is just such an asset for the state. And so I just want to kind of reiterate that we are so proud of the 99% of programs that met every expectation. We will work with those 25 to get them in that category. And hopefully I'll be here a year from now talking about everybody meeting expectations and everybody making improvement and more models of excellence than we've ever seen before. But what a moment for early childhood in the Commonwealth. And I hope everybody feels proud of that. And I hope everybody joins me in recognizing, as Daryl just did, the extraordinary educators who help make this possible. Yes, Jennifer.
First of all, I want to say thank you to you and your team for making all this happen. And I'm so excited about where early childhood education is now and the results that we've seen, especially this year. I'm wondering if, and certainly not today, but sometime in the future, if we could ever have a discussion about looking forward in terms of the bands that we use for those ratings, because you've got it needs improvement and meets expectations are very large bands compared to exceeds expectations. And a score of 400 is pretty different from a score of 650. So I just wanted to throw that out again, not for today, but.
No, I love that. Thank you, Jennifer. I love that question. And as we go to kind of what's next, I mean, our poor team. So a huge thank you goes out to our folks led by our Assistant Superintendent Aaron Carroll, and the work by Tiara West, Chris Myers, and all of the data and analytics and the VQB5 team, as well as Marie LaMonica Zaro and the early learning. I mean, it truly takes a full team effort to kind of get this much data. We get it out the door, and then I turn around just as you just did, Jennifer, and I'm like, okay, so what do we need to do to improve this system? And they're like, can we please take a breath? But it's a really important kind of question as Chris is laughing now. She's laughing now, people. That's not always the feeling that she's feeling. But I think we are already, as we are preparing for these deep dives, and as we are looking at our work with partners and sort of asking Ready Regions and other partners to think about this as deep dives, where is this strong and where do we need to improve? And really looking at, could we get more improvement than we saw this year? I'm excited to see that 4-point improvement, but I might want to see more in terms of kind of across the board. And would creating, for example, additional levels kind of break up that middle and create more incentives for more improvement? Knowing what we know from the 200 studies that suggest, right, that even sort of meaningful improvement in these interactions can drive real changes for kids. So as you go into these deep dives, as you think about this data, as you look at the website, if you're a data nerd, you can download this and think about this. But I think there is, we are not planning on just kind of sitting still with this, but kind of looking at that data, and we will come back to this body with some thoughts on, okay, this is what the data tells us. This is what we know from talking with educators and parents and, practitioners, and here are the potential shifts as we think about the guidelines for 26, 27, which will come in front of this group sometime next spring. So really important question. And I think really for me, there is kind of the broader question of like, how do we get the maximum improvement? I've asked the team, I was so excited to see the 50 sites move out of need supports into meet expectation. We have 25 that have shifted into that category. How do we sort of both address the challenges that those sites are facing, but also make sure that we, have no sites in that category next year, right? What might we want to do differently? And so the real challenges in there that our data is telling us, and we will certainly bring those back to the ECAC as we grapple with them and think about how we can strengthen the guidelines and continue to move forward.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? And this kind of summarizes, again, that using this data, we are also going to start to use some of the VKRP data to kind of understand the relationship between interactions, curriculum used, and how much kids grow in the beginning of year, and think about how we also then share that with you. So one of the things that came up is we see small, sort of less growth and expressive communication when you look at the literacy screening, and probably a lot of that has to do with kind of concept development and how much we're asking kids how and why questions, and how much we're enabling preschoolers to develop and sort of say out loud more sophisticated thoughts. And that's just a really interesting insight on how kind of a particular measure in part of class actually translates into kind of kids learning in a way that was not possible before we had preschool VKRP and VALs. And so as we get this new data, thinking about how do we put some of that at your fingertips, and then you all can then help us think about shaping guidelines and this kind of incremental improvement as we go forward. Okay, let me just go back for 1 second before we wrap it up. The other piece too, we're just going to continue to support some of the shifts around curriculum change, or again, gradually phasing that in, knowing that's some big shifts. And then ultimately, and Daryl sort of said this best in terms of recognizing the workforce, is really thinking through how do we communicate the results of this year and do this in a way that recognizes that this is truly a great investment, that elected officials can know, if we start off with what I started off at the beginning of the day, that every dollar is going towards slots in alignment with parent choice. And then you sort of on the bookend, you look at these VQB5 results and you can see the quality, you see where the dollars go, and you can see the actual results in terms of the quality of what kids are experiencing. And we will use this information to not only elevate and to support the workforce in the way that Daryl was talking about, but as we think about going into this year's General Assembly, how do we tell the story in a way that to derive more competitive compensation and better supports for our very important workforce. With that, I will turn it to Clark, our chair, and see if there's any final thoughts before we go into a closed session for conflict of interest training.
Jenna, thank you. I would like to kind of piggyback on what Jennifer commented, and that was the excellence of these presentations by you, Becca, and Jeff, if he is still with us. I don't know when y'all sleep. The data and information that y'all put together and bring to our group it is outstanding. So thank you for such concise information and everything so easy to wrap our heads around and the opportunity for us to ask questions. Anyone from the group, does anyone have any questions before we move to the next item on our agenda? Okay, so we are at a point in the agenda where we are going to need to pause our live stream while we move into a closed session portion of our agenda today. At this point, I would like to move that the Early Childhood Advisory Committee convene in a closed meeting for the following purposes: consultation with legal counsel employed by or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel pursuant to 2.2, 3711, Section A, Section 8 of the Code of Virginia, and that the legal counsel to the Early Childhood Advisory Committee and staff whose presence will aid in the committee's consideration of this matter participate in the closed meeting. So at this point, we will be moving to closed session.
We do need a second on that.
Thank you, Becca. Do we have a second on that motion?
I second that motion.
Was that Jaron? Who did the second?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And we'll be stopping the live stream now. I'll just ask that we will need one or 2 minutes